Okay, so automation testing overview. What is automation testing? It's a software testing technique that performs using special automated testing software tools to execute a test cases or test suite. On the contrary, manual testing is performed by the human sitting in front of the computer, carefully executing the test steps, right? But here, whatever test steps you are executing manually, sitting in front of computer, it will be done automatically through the machine using the automation testing tool. So the automation testing software can also enter test data into system under test, compare expected and actual result, and generate detailed test reports. And this test automation demands considerable investment of the money resources. So this automation testing tool, it can take the data from data provider or data sheets and put it into a script in order to test same script in over and over with a different set of data. And it also can compare the result, what is expected, what is the actual, and based on that, it can also give you a report that the test case is fail or pass. But to do these things, this needs considerable like time, little bit money, investment, and also the skill resources to create all these scripts. Successive development cycles will require execution of same test suite repeatedly, and using the test automation tool, it is possible to record this test suite and replay it as required. Once the test suite is automated, no new intervention is required, like minimal, not nothing but minimal. This improves return of investment of test automation. So the test automation you can do like you can record and playback, or you can write it, the scripts as per your comfort zone, and run it. The goal of the automation is to reduce number of test cases to be run manually and not to eliminate manual testing altogether. So by doing automation is not that certain that the manual test case is going to be obsolete or totally discarded. Rather than it will save time for the test cases that normally run every time, like health check, right? Every time you go for the testing before that, you need to do the health check of your environment, of your system. That can be done automation instead of doing step by step manually. That takes maybe like 1 hour for you, but if you have a script ready, it can done within 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So it's not that like if you have automation, the manual thing's gonna be obsolete. Still there will be a manual because based on the requirement, manual test cases, all these things, it's easier to write the script or develop the automation test suite. But if you want to do from beginning, it's the same thing. You need to go through the requirement. You need to come out the scenarios. You need to come out the test cases. Then you need to write the scripts, right? So it's the same thing basically. You're doing manual and then you come to automation script. So that's why there will be nothing like that. The automation manual will be obsolete or there will be no manual testing. There will be always a demand for manual testing, but it will vary from company to company whether how many % of manual automation they are dividing to do it. Any question?
No.
Wally, therefore, Taha, any question?
It's okay.
Good. It's good.
Okay. So why you need the test automation? So test automation is the best way to increase the effectiveness, test coverage, and execution speed in software testing. And automation, software testing is important due to some of the following reasons, right? So we need the automation testing to increase our effectiveness and also do the coverage, test coverage, like 100% test coverage, and the execution speed, which save our time that one will do the manually. So for some of the important reason we do the testing, one of them is like manual testing of all workflow, all fields, all negative scenarios, time and money consuming, right? So if you're doing manual testing of workflow, like if you're testing all the fields, all the negative, positive scenario, all these things, it will take time and it will take also investment. And it's also difficult to test for multilingual sites manually, right? If there is a multilingual, like same software, you will be testing 10 different languages, right? So what you're doing, basically you're running the same thing, but only thing you're testing it is a language compatibility. So those kind of things like manually doing, you have to do 10 times. But if you have a script ready for that, you can do one time with very limited time. Test automation is also software testing, does not require human interventions. You can run automatic test unattended overnight. So even like if you have a script ready, you can trigger the test suite at the night and morning. You can go and see what are the failures of the test cases, and then developer can fix that. So they're also saving your many times, right? Over the night it can run, and morning you can go and get the result. Even it will send you the result based on to whom it need to be sent. Test automation increases the speed of the test executions. Automation helps increase the test coverage, you told already, and manual testing can become boring and hence error prone. But sometimes like you doing a same thing over and over, it kind of like some time you'll feel like bored. But if you have like a flavor of automation, you can run the script and relax some time and do it. So combining it like it's give you like more more of like a enjoyment to doing these things. So there are some categories of the test cases that are not suitable for automation. So not everything is suitable for automation. Not that all the test cases you've written manually or all the test scenario came up to test. Not necessarily that every scenario, every test cases can be automated or will be automated or should be automated. Because automation have some limitation also. So the category is defined is like test case that are newly designed and not executed manually at least once. It's not suitable to do the automation because you wrote the script by putting all the resource and time and money, and then script is failing, or the scenario is not right. The business didn't want it to do these things. They wanted different things. Maybe. So what happened? You have to go back, come back again. You have to do all the things again. You have to write all the things. So the test case, those are newly designed. They should at least execute it manually at least once or more than once, but at least once minimum. So that if there is any fault, any flaws, any design issues, any change requirements issues, everything can be fixed before you do the automation of that test cases or test scenarios.
So there is nothing in 100% automation.
No, I mean,
Any case.
no, you cannot tell there is 100% automation.
Okay, have to be some manually.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do it. I mean, company does it, but still the manual is there, right? After you do the manual, you do the automation. Test cases for which the requirements frequently changing, and the test cases that frequently change the requirements, it's not suitable to do the automation. You can do it. I mean, it's not that not doable, but you can do it, but it will waste of time and money because you have to do it again and again because frequently the requirements changing. So those are the categories we don't recommend to do the automation because those are changeable frequently.
What is ad hoc basis?
Okay, we'll come there.
Oh.
Test cases which are executed on the ad hoc basis, right? So we cannot, we should not automate, we should not automate the test cases that we are executing as an ad hoc basis. So what is the ad hoc testing? Other people,
Yeah, that's
you
what
guys
I was
already
thinking.
thought.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Ad hoc is like doing test test cases without any requirement.
Oh, no.
No. I know ad hoc we studied.
I remember
Yeah.
ad hoc is one kind of test.
Ad hoc is
Yeah, what is the one kind of test?
ad hoc testing is like
Polly, you are close by. You can tell.
yeah.
There is no requirement. So basically, like testers sit on in front of a system and
Yeah,
they
so
have
there is not
some
no like no requirement.
experience, yeah,
requ-
some experience, and they
Yeah.
can come up with some scenarios out of that
Mhm.
application.
Like no documentation will be provided. It will
Yeah,
be based on
so
experience, right?
they wrote the test cases based on their experience and based on
Yeah.
their application observation.
Mhm.
So those test cases are not recommended to be automated because
Yeah.
you don't know whether those test cases are right or wrong
Mhm.
because it didn't go through any business change, any business documentation, business requirement analysis, designing all these things.
Like
And it
informal
takes
testing, no?
Yeah,
Hmm?
it
Informal
And
didn't go
testing.
through the formal testing
yeah,
steps.
and it takes time to write down the script for automation testing. So
Yeah, you can write it down, but basically the thing is that those are not 100% execute 100% like defined test cases
Uh-huh.
because those are not handled properly through the SDLC lifecycle,
Mhm.
where there was no involvement of the project management team and the business management team and the client to understand what they want and what we are building. So since there is a test cases, it doesn't mean that you should automate because those test cases not proven test cases. Those are written based on the experience and based on the system maneuver or application maneuver. What it's doing, maybe what it can do. Any question? So these are the things like it saves times, it improves test coverage, it improves ad hoc and exploratory testing, and reduce cost and maintenance. So these are the some reasons we do the automation and some of the categories that we do not suitable for automation
it's like kind of design advantages.
on those tests on those categories like which are newly designed and which are like frequently changing and those test cases are executed on ad hoc basis. Any question?
No.
Hasib?
That's good.
No, it's just basically saying that what type of test cases we should do automation, which are not suitable for automation.
Yes. So when you're doing the choosing automation test cases, there are some crucial factors that the team should understand or should consider, right? One of the thing is that execution time and testing frequency of the test cases. So if the answer of the both components is significant, the test cases make a strong candidate for automation. The same principle applies to test suite with an added element to under test cases in the suite. So if the execution time and testing frequency of the test cases are clear and concise and within the budget and time, then this is the best candidate that those test cases can be automated. Resource requirement, and this includes the number of device, browser, OS, platform, and database involved with the running test cases. It also depends on the level of user involvement required in the test. The higher it is, the less likely you should automate them. Another thing is a resource requirement. If you want to do the automation, it doesn't mean that you can do it unless you have the skillful resources to do script, reading the script, develop the script. If you are not skillful, then it will take more time to develop a script and less time to run the test, which is vice versa and opposite of your testing. That means your testing will not be completed on time because of that. So it also depends on your resource requirement, right? If you have the enough resources or enough skill resources to complete the development of the script and test it on time.
So the
Test cases
resource
can,
and the skill, both.
yeah, the resource should have the testing skills, right? Development skill of the script.
Mhm.
I mean, if you have a resource like manual resources, he's not skillful on developing the script of the test automation test cases, right?
Yeah.
So if I give him the script need wherever the skillful resource can write the script or develop the script in maybe like 8 hours, that guy might take 1 week. He need to study, he need to gather all the things, he need to do this thing. Sometimes he will never come up with the solution, right? The test case is characteristic. Identify the test case in question have a defined outcome for testing software to generate, or if the testing feature are newly and flaky. In question can also be crucially, critically, and complexity of the features. The more critical, complex it is, the more likely you should automate it to avoid human error, right? Another thing that the test cases characteristic, how the test cases is the test cases is more prone to be getting error, or is like too much complicated or complex test scenario, or the user used this functionality over and over. Based on those kind of things, you should choose those test cases or test scenarios to be automated, so that by doing manually testing, someone might do wrong, but if you create the script correctly, it will never go wrong. So that can be tested through automation script. Another thing is the downside of automation would not outweigh the value of RIO, right? The value here includes the time, the insights, and the manual resources saved. The downside here includes implementation cost, maintenance cost, and even flexibility. So RIO, return on investment. So whatever the company is investing on the resources to get the value of the business, it can be hard based on these time frames or the knowledge of the resources, or if there is all of the manual resources, not automation skills resources. So the answer will be like implementation cost, maintenance cost, and even flexibility. Those will be hamper the RIO of a company. So if you don't have all these things, and if you want to do the automations, that will give you upside down result instead of giving you more finest result. Clear? So those are the crucial things you need to, the company need to understand and evaluate before they go for the automation. So test cases to automate. What test cases need to be automated? Before automating any test cases, teams must carefully compare those test cases with a set of criteria. So we'll have the recommended test cases for applying automation, right? So before you go to the automation, you need to find out or carefully understand or think of that which test cases you need to pick up for your automation. And you should set the criteria that whatever the test cases meet this criteria, will be doing the automation for those test cases only. So one of the tests is regression test, smoke test, and insanity test. What is a regression test, Toha? What is the regression test? Jafar? Jafar Ahmed, what is the regression test?
Don't remember.
Oli?
So whenever we add new functionality, we check that the new functionality is working with the previous one, or the previous functionality is working with the new one. So to find out that, we do the regression testing.
Yes. So basically, whenever there is a
Any
requirement
update
changes
or
any
changes,
functionality, any change of functionality, any update of functionality, we do the regression testing to check whether implementing the new functionality does not adversely affect the old functionality, right?
Yeah.
Because there will be a situation maybe when I'm implementing the new functionality, the old functionality might get error. It might get affected and give me the error. So we need to do the regression test and see that our old functionality is working previously, and then we implement the new functionality and retest it again, do the regression. So if there is a problem with the old functionality, you can understand that the error is because of the new functionality, right? Because before implementing that, we did the regression test, means we ran the test cases, those.
Yeah.
And we did get result, there is no error, right? So we are confirmed that there is no error before we implement the new functionality. So there is something implemented with the new functionality that is affecting our old functionality. That's why the whole thing is corrupted.
Mhm.
So this is another thing to understand, pinpoint why our test case is failed. We do the regression test, right?
Yeah.
The
A
smoke
sm-
test.
Yeah.
What is a smoke test?
To make sure the next text criteria is ready for the executor. Next phrase.
To make sure what?
The next phrase of the software is ready to execute.
Yeah.
Next phase. Yeah. So basically, like you'll be testing, smoke testing is nothing but you're testing very limited functionalities like to check the health of the environment before you are implementing any new functionalities, right?
Yeah.
You just do some smoke testing here and there to see everything is working fine before that.
Mhm.
What is the sanity testing?
Sanity testing is the same. Like whenever we do any, like it just quick and like ensure that if there is any changes, like in the code or something, like previously found any bugs, so after
Mhm.
so it worked properly.
Okay. So you do the sanity testing to check
Mhm.
it, like whether it's still there, affect the error is there or not, or it's like working fine.
Actually, stable, build the software. Make sure
Mhm.
everything is perfect.
So it's like after fixing a bug or like
Yeah.
updating anything, we
Yeah,
check
is there any change in
After
code?
fixing
Yeah.
a bug, the
Mhm.
test you're doing, there's not a sanity test. What is the test name? Polly,
We just said the
Lafortoha?
regression, but sanity testing is like kind of
Af-
same.
I'm saying that after fixing the bug, we don't do the sanity test. What kind of test do you do before that?
That retest
Yeah,
Retest,
retest. That's
after
what I want
fixing
to
a bug.
get.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after fixing a bug, you have to do the retest before you do any other test.
Yes.
The
Means
retesting.
that
Yeah.
whatever the fix you done, you have to test based on that functionality or that is particular area to see that
Mhm.
that is working fine before you do
Retest.
whole thing.
So we do the sanity test after the build of software or on the
No,
way.
on the way
After
we
the
do
change
that.
of code, I
If
think.
there is any code changes, so
Okay.
if there is
Yeah.
any change code in the
Mhm.
change requirement, so
Yeah.
you may be doing some sanity testing before you implement new code.
Yeah, that defines the name sanity. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Correct.
regression is like you're doing much more, but sanity is you're just checking particular that functionality.
Yeah. That's like small
Yeah,
portion.
yeah.
Okay.
So these tests are consuming in terms of time, resource, and they are backbone of each release testing process, right? So regression is one of the most important testing phases in test environment.
Mhm.
Okay.
Any
Like
question here?
regression testing is the whole area, and sanity testing is the one part. Like the small test, right? It's small
Yeah.
area.
Yes, particular functionality, particular area of the functionality. So criteria of the automation is like execution time, test frequency, resource requirement, test case characteristic, downside, whatever we have. That will be here in this part. Any question here? Very good.
Yeah.
Then
Performance.
performance test, right? Under performance test, we have load test, stress test, etc. There are a lot of other tests.
Mhm.
So they are repetitive and time consuming to reach the desired coverage. So when you do the performance test, anyone?
After the product is completed.
No, Toha? When you do the performance test,
All test is finished and like finished like this is called a before we get the customer.
no. Jafar?
Just to make sure that the tests are ready for the customer. For
No. Polly?
So we
You
do
guys
that
didn't
to
study.
determine how the system perform, like the respond, how the system respond, to make sure the performance is system is performing what it is supposed to perform. Right?
Yeah, so when you do that,
Oh, when we do that,
when you do the performance test. So what is the performance testing? Performance testing is nothing but testing the software's load, performance, capability, capacity,
before
all
it
these
goes to
things,
the
right?
production, right?
Yes. Like
Right, all these
stability,
things,
speed. Yeah.
stability, security, right? All these are a non-functional, which is a performance test. Non-functional testing. There is a functional testing and there is a non-functional testing.
Yeah.
So before we
Performance
start the
test
project.
is the non-functional testing. And whatever you're doing, regression, retest, sanity, smoke, monkey test, gorilla test, all these things are functional testing. So there will be a non-functional team also. As like functional team you guys have, there will be also a non-functional team.
Mhm.
They will be testing all these performance related issues, like they'll be doing the load testing, stress testing, security testing, performance testing, database testing, compatibility testing, SQL injection testing, right?
So when
Those kind
the
of testing they'll
application
be
is
doing.
fully
So
developed, we do the performance
is
testing, right?
yes, so they will be testing side by side as long with the functional testing. Let's say you guys completed one module of the test cases and everything, test are there. They can take that module and do the functional testing. They'll be doing side by side, not that they will be sitting down whole time and once you're done and they'll be testing it. No. Agile is like a self-concise and self-dependent methodology, right? Where every team member can contact with every team member and work together in side by side. They don't wait like a waterfall methodology that one phase has to be done and then second phase comes. We'll then start our work. Simultaneously, every team will be working side by side for their clear.
Yes, so the basically performance testing happens before we implement it, or
As I said, it's not before you implement it side by side. When you are
side by
developing
side?
your
Okay,
mod, when you're developing your one of the function, they'll be doing their non-functional
performance
testing.
testing. Okay,
Mm.
okay. Performance testing is also called functional testing, right?
There's a non-functional testing.
Non-functional testing. Okay.
So in testing, there is a two part. One is a functional testing, one is a non-functional testing. So
Okay.
performance test, which is under load test, stress test, security test.
Okay.
Compatibility test, all these are non-functional testing. The regression, system integration, all these are like functional tests.
Okay. Got it.
So there will be two different team, no functional team and non-functional team, or sometimes they call load and performance team.
Yeah, they want to work side by side.
Yeah.
And performance testing are like a good candidate for automation.
Yes.
Okay.
What is the load testing, Toha?
So load testing.
Yes. What is the load testing? Therefore, what is the load test?
Yeah, while we while we use the software test, so some the multiple user can assess how it works, or
Much load the
Yeah,
app can
How
close
much
take.
by.
load the system
by.
can handle?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there was
Different
the
user
follow-
can use it.
huh?
Only what is that? What is the load test?
So to see the if a system can handle the load, the example like when 100 user use the application, how it performs. If it can perform the same when 1,000 user can using the application. So
No,
is it able to
no,
capable to
no.
load, right?
That is not a load.
That's not load testing?
You are close by, but you went to another definition.
Hmm.
How about mine was not closer?
You are also close, but you have to be more concise. Or
Mm.
Like when
the way you
multi-user use
describe.
the application?
No,
it
so load
performs.
testing is nothing bad. It's like testing the how much load the system can handle it, right?
Mm.
So I created my software for 1,000 users.
Mhm.
If there is like 500 users logged in and my system crashes, it's not like appropriate for my system, right? So I need to test that, right? Whether my system can have the capacity or not to take 100,000 users load, or is breaking before that, or breaking near that, or breaking exactly at 1,000, or it's not breaking even though it's going a little bit more, maybe like 100,000, 1100 user. It's still my system is not breaking and still performing very well. So in that case, that my performance load test is good enough for my system to handle the load of 1,000 users simultaneously. But when you're trying to say, like Polly, what you said, like
Uh-huh.
if my system is you created for 1,000 users, and if I want to see if my system can take a load of 2,000 users, that is like the stress test. You're stretching beyond your comfort zone from 1,000 to 2,000 to see whether the stress can be handled by the system or not, application or not. So there is your stress test where you're testing out of your comfort zone. Clear?
Yeah.
So,
Yes. How much load we test can handle?
Yeah.
It
it's depending
depends.
on your application you're
Yes.
developing.
It's probably like this, like you're building an app that can handle 1,000 user at a time. So before you proceed with the software release, you have to test that can it actually handle 1,000 user at a time or not.
Yes.
And
Yes.
stress testing is like you're gonna check like how much it can take. Like if you use 2,000 user, if it goes 3,000 user, when
Yeah,
it's
where
gonna
is breaking? That means you can
yeah.
say until like 4,000 maybe is breaking. So you can say from 1,000 to 4,000, my system can handle it. After that is breaking. So it's out of comfort zone of my system is 1,000 to 3,000.
Yes.
So this is also one of the candidate for repeated time, because if you're testing like if you're going to test manually, right? One users, two user, and 100 user, then 1,000
Oh, yeah.
user, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000,
It's very time
100,000 user. How long it will take for you to test it manually? So performance load test, this is a very good candidate for automation.
yeah, like Facebook, if they wants to test it
Yes.
manually, it's gonna take them ages. Yeah.
Yeah. One
Okay.
time Facebook is like a million user.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is data-driven test or test on the AUT's crucial features, right? Automation is the answer to minimize human error potential on the data or the potential critical components. So one of the things is data-driven test. If you're doing the data-driven test, these are one of the major candidate to do the automation, because the automation can feed the data into the script automatically and run the same script
Yeah.
over time for different set of data and get the result. So if there is any critical component within your testing where we think like human can make a error, potential error, then we should automate the test cases. And some of the test cases to automate are integration test, API test, unit test, cross-browser test, etc. Those are also good candidate to do the automation test. So those are the things you do the testing, right? Do the regression, performance, data-driven, AUT, and integration API test, unit test, cross-browser test. Those kind of things you do test. When you're not to do the test cases, automate. So test case to not to automate. Although automation testing is promising solution for a quality and speed process, automating everything test case will do you more harm than good. So avoid the overdoing or misusing automation testing. There are some golden rules when it comes to the unhabitable part of the automation testing, right? So sometimes you do the automation that will be a burden for you instead of giving you a finest result.
Yeah.
So exploratory and ad hoc test.
Mhm.
When there is exploratory and ad hoc test cases, you don't do automation post test cases because they don't have the concrete criteria for testing software evaluation because they doesn't go through the SDLC life cycle for formal testing. So they are least feasible for automation of a result in false outcome. It can give you like false outcome, as I said, because it didn't go through the SDLC process where the team has not or the management and the client together have not come up with their feasible test criteria, test scenario, test cases, and the outcomes should be what client want. So doing that thing means like you have to go over again and again to do that. So there is time consuming, the money consuming, and also the outcome result is a false outcome, which is client don't want that. User experience test, usually testing. So it is unlikely the testing software can perfectly mimic a human exact emotion and expression when using an apps, right? Another user experience test that it cannot be automation because the script cannot
Yeah.
find the
That-
human behavior or exactly how the human will be behaving. So that will be have to be manually.
Yeah, automation is
Intermittent test,
logical.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just explaining it to myself. Like automation is like a system is gonna try to do it logically, but user don't
Yes.
do everything logically. So you need
Yeah.
human test for that. Yeah.
So intermittent test and redundant low risk test. This test will produce an unreliable result when automated. Also, just because you can automate your test suite doesn't mean you should do it. So some of the tests which are redundant means repeated or low risk that does not harm your business or the function does not harm any other functionality or this functionality does not uses by the users very much. You can test it, but doing the test is not gonna give you any result. It will not produce any result because those functionalities are not used by users most of the time. So why you waste your time and money and resources building test script and test it where you can manually maybe like in 10 minutes you can do it and you're doing once in a maybe like 3 months or 4 months. Clear? Otherwise, anti-automation test, this goes without saying if you can automate an anti-automation features like CAPTCHA. So there are some
You
features
can or you cannot.
you cannot.
Yeah.
So there are some features like one of that is the CAPTCHA, then there is a QR code read, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things you cannot automate because those are like anti-automation features. They does
Yeah.
not provide you any automate tools, any automation tools.
Yeah.
Till now don't have to capture those things. So any questions? So this test automation where you're doing regression test, performance test, data-driven automation, AUT crucial feature, integration API test. Those can be automatable or we should automate it and explore an error test, user experience test, test redundant low risk and anti-automation test. Those we should not do or do the automate, try to automate. Those are the criteria. So when you do automate and when you do not, which test case you automate and which test case you don't automate. Any questions so far? So you guys, Toha, Polly, Zafar, you guys already like out of sight of software testing what we started, right?
No,
Yeah, look like.
no, not all the way. It's just a little bit confusion. Just a little bit. I love regression testing.
What is the usability testing? Tell me. Toha, Zafar, Polly, what is the usability testing? You should remember these are the testings.
Go to Hawaii.
You say. You already forgot because the question I asked you, I just keep quiet. He forgot everything.
Not really forgot. Usability testing, like I use like any testing.
No, Polly?
I don't remember this one.
Yeah. Therefore,
No, don't remember.
integration test.
Usability is probably on the users or something like that.
Yeah, it's like the test with the real user.
Okay. Go and check the notes. Tell me integration test.
Integration means
Integration.
See, you guys don't remember. It should be on your lips. Like what is integration? What is the utility? What is the error? What is the sanity? What is the smoke?
something with integration.
What is API test?
Did- didn't done it yet.
Don't remember?
Okay, yeah, found it. That one.
Unit test?
Unit test. Okay.
Like
Come on,
unit
guys.
is like when we test like a single unit, if it works, and integration is like to test one unit with other if it works, right?
Yeah.
Integration that.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
group of
Yep.
they're
Group of
working
test one.
together. Yeah.
One
If
is
it
doing
works
another.
as a group,
Group
yeah.
of testing.
So the way you guys are saying this will not give any value in the interview. It means like, something like if I say how the cycle works. Bicycle works. We say, oh, cycle has the two wheels, and it just
No,
round and go.
okay, so you want that
It's kind of like that.
professional wording. Okay, so
Of
integration
course, the interviewer will be looking some of the crucial professional words of the IT words within your talk.
okay, so
That gives
integration
him
before
testing
that.
is
that
like
you know.
software modules are working together perfectly, right? We use we do the integration testing.
And like the answer should not like one sentence with like 5 words. Your answer should explain. I mean, you need to explain until he say, "Okay, I understand." That's it. Okay, next question.
So we need to keep going on.
Of course.
Mhm.
Okay.
Kill
That's why
as
you
much
need
time
to
as you
study.
can.
And if you can kill with one question answer his time,
Uh-huh.
he will maybe
Uh-huh.
like 20 minutes. You will not take any time to ask you like different 10 questions. So you need to study the notes. You need to understand. You need to really study the notes, and you need to be familiar with those words, technical words, IT words, some of them, and implement within your answer.
I have a great example of that. One of my friend's colleague is Indian, so whenever his boss asks him like, "What did you do?" he starts saying like this: "I was sitting in my chair, and then I got up and I saw that light switch. I went over there and then turn it on, and the light turns on like that." So it's like the boss stops him. Okay, I got it. What you did.
Okay, so go ahead and read those things. Any other question here?
So we were at where? So yeah, we're done with this page. Yes.
So automated testing process, right? So there is also a testing process like we have in the manual testing, right? What is the testing process in manual test? Polly? What is the process of manual test, Polly?
Yeah, I'm here. I heard you.
Start
Uh,
like that.
Soha,
Yes. When you started the course,
Instead,
first we learn about computer fundamentals.
What is
Soha,
the
yes,
process?
what is
like
the
we have
manual
to.
test process?
Uh,
Don't dig notes now. It should be on your head. Jafar, see,
I
I
mean,
told you, you
yeah,
guys
I
just
don't know, but I would start like that. We have to identify what we are testing and then set the criteria for that and find the defects and bugs and then fix those like that. Yeah,
no.
that's not
I
a,
mean, that's fine, but that's not a process. So
yeah,
that's.
that's
I
not
mean,
a
still you are
process.
fine. You can say something, but I was expecting them from them to at least say something on these things. These are like I started beginning, and I think they didn't touch the note after I sent it. They just kept it, and they just keep on saying, send the notes, send the notes, send the notes. You guys what? I'm sending notes and keeping on your basket and lock it, saving it, golden.
No, whenever we learn something new, like we are new in this field, that's why
like
I didn't want to
manual
go
testing.
back.
That,
So I got
that's why
confused.
that's why you need to study at least 1 hour
Yeah,
every day, as I said.
like black box, white box testing,
You have to just
integration
review
testing.
just
Like
No, so
review that.
testing process, manual testing process, like we require the documents. That's the thing you're talking about, right, Udin bhai?
No, I'm talking SDLC, software development life
For
cycle. That's the
development
testing
life cycle.
process, right? There's the testing process, SDLC, right? Main testing process of the manual test process, right?
Mhm.
It is simple, and it is one of the major fundamental of testing that I taught you guys, and you forgot the SDLC all the way. There is a 7 phases, right? What is the first requirement phase?
Design,
Design phase.
no,
So requirement
like
gathering,
planning,
requirement
analyzing,
analysis.
designing, implementation,
Mm.
testing, and maintenance.
Yes.
yes, maintenance.
Execute. We don't have to execute on the
No,
test.
no, that's the
Test under
testing
test
process.
is it.
That's the
That's the
STLC.
testing process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That
requirement,
one is STLC.
on requirement, you have a requirement gathering, requirement analysis,
Uh-huh.
all these things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Planning
7
phase,
steps.
you plan how you're going to test it, right?
Mhm.
Test planning.
Make the blueprint, right? How the system will develop, how the application will develop. All this planning will be going on the planning
Yeah,
phase.
like which environment we're gonna use,
Development
we plan
phase,
everything.
you're going to develop actual software, what you planned, right? Whatever blueprint you made, you're going to develop that development phase, right?
Yeah.
And then you test the developed product, right? How whether your development product is actually working the way you wanted or you developed.
Mhm.
And once it's done, you keep that production on and then maintenance, right?
Then maintenance will be always there.
Yeah. So there will be some bugs or some defects which you did not fix it in during the testing, but still with that, because those are the cosmetic bugs or default bugs, you can still release the software, and in the maintenance phase, you're going to fix those things and give the client fully unflawful software, right? Bug-free software. So this is the main testing process of the manual test process, SDLC, right? SDLC. And then comes to what? What methodology you're going to follow to go through this SDLC process, right? What are the methodologies you have in testing? Jafar?
Waterfall, agile, spiral.
Jafar?
Yeah,
Jafar, I
black
did
box,
tell you.
white box texting.
No,
Testing, no?
methodologies.
Methodology, like waterfall, these are the
Oh.
things. Agile, spiral, V model.
Yes. Waterfall,
Mhm.
Agile
V
Scrum,
model,
viral,
V model.
incremental, V
Mhm.
model, Big
Agile.
Bang, right?
Mhm.
All these are methodologies. So you'll be using any of the methodologies to implement your SDLC process within your software development. And today's world, mostly Agile is the methodology we use because it's self-concise and self-independent.
Yeah, also less cost.
So these are the crucial things. These are very needed thing, very beginning things
Yeah,
that if you don't
definitely.
know these things, that means you are not really into this field. You don't know anything.
Inshallah, you'll be happy when you have mock interview. Inshallah.
Yeah. So go through these things, read every day 1 hour, at least review, just review and review. Every day, just review the notes. So same way you have automation testing process like for manual, right? So these are the following steps that will be followed for the automation process. It is a test tool selections, right? So before you create your event query script, you need to select your tools. What kind of tools you'll be using for your automation? There are like a commercial tools, which is like paid version. There are like also a free version, open source. So you need to select your tools that you want to go with the commercial or open source without paying anything. So both of have some advantages and some disadvantages, right? This is one of the most crucial thing that you need to select your tools. Then you need to define the scope of automations. Out of your requirement, out of your manual test cases, test scenarios, you need to define what are the scope of the automation. How much percentage you can automate? What are the things you should automate or you should not automate? So those are the things you need to define. Means you need to gather those things, you need to analyze those things, you come up with the planning, right? It's like same thing as like gathering, analysis, requirement analysis, gathering, reporting, right? Talking with the stakeholder clients and come up with the defined scenarios that need to be automated. Then you do the planning, design, and development, right? You plan that as per your requirement, design the script, how you're going to write the script, and you develop the script. And once that is done, you execute your test script, right? And then it goes to the maintenance. So basically, same thing
Almost the same, yeah.
following, almost, right? So here test tool, and then define scope, and then you go to the planning and design, and then test execution, and then maintenance.
Mhm.
So test tool selection, as I said, like test tool selection all depends on the technology, the application and the test is built on, right? For instance, like QTP, which is the quality testing process, does not support Informatica. So QTP cannot be used for testing for application. It is good idea to contact proof of concept tool or automate. So tool selection is one of the most important things beginning of your testing automation process because not every tool can automate every applications. There are certain limitations, certain limitation on every tools that you need to undermine. So if you're using like here, what example you say, like Informatica is a database. It is one of the big database. So if you are using, if your company is using Informatica database and you have selected HP QTP tool for automation, then you will get stuck to automate database. You cannot automate the database one because it doesn't support. So you need to choose different tool. So that's why auto tool selection is one of the major things. Okay, clear? Let me give a 10 minutes break. Come at 9:12. Okay. As I said, testing tool is selection is one of the most crucial step for automation. Okay.
Okay.
Now defining the scope of automation. So the scope of automation is the area of your application test which will be automated. There is some points you need to keep in considerations. The features that are important to the business, right? So the functionality that's business use more, we can automate those things because that can be tested rigorously, right? Like every time there is a new functionality added, we'll be testing those functionality before you implement those new modules. Scenarios which have a large amount of data. So if there is a large amount of data on the scenarios, those can be also automated. It's good to automate it because you can use the data provider to feed the data on the automation script. In that way, the same script can be used over and over again for different set of data. The common functionality across the application, right? The common functionality that we use mostly, you can use to do the automation for those functionalities. And technical feasibilities, like technically, if you find any system related implementation, you can automate those also, like release. Nowadays, we do the release with automation test script. So in that way, like everything will be set up and we'll just trigger the automation script and start deploying one by one. The extent of which business component are reused. So some of the business components that are mostly used, those also can be automated.
Reused. Okay.
Yeah, and the complexity of test cases. The test cases that are more complex, we should automate those things because manually we might come up with the error while testing. Maybe you're testing most complex scenarios, and in the middle you might feel like tired or boring, and you just placely put the data, different data, which is not test data. And then the system outcome will be of the test will be faulty.
So if the test is more complex, we tend to go for automation?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Then ability to use the same test case for cross-browser testing. And also same test, if there is a different browser you're using, you should automate those test cases so that with same script you can test on different browsers. Clear? So those are the scope of automations you need to consider when you start automating your test cases. Planning, design, and development. During this phase, you create an automation strategy plan which contains some of the details like automation tool selected, framework design, and its features. So one of the another major thing is like designing a framework for automation. Automation have a framework. You need to create a framework. Like in Java, you created like package, right? Then you create a project, then package, you create the classes, right? You're creating the modules, then interfaces, right? So in this also, there is a framework. What is a framework? Framework is nothing but the way you want to set up your automation test, where the test report will be, what are the modules will be, where you kept the modules, so that you can
Like
call
organize the
just
work
script.
plan.
Organizing your test script.
Yeah.
In scope and out of scope items of automation. So what are the in scope for automation? What are the out of scope automation? We need to define those things also. That in scope we will be doing the automation. Out of scope we will not do the automations.
Automation.
Automation test bed preparation. Also, you need to set up your test bed, which consists. What is the test bed? Polly?
Sorry.
Your blanket, your pillow, your bed frame.
Yeah. So, but in automation, like in software,
Yeah.
what is
So
it?
in software, it's same thing. Like you need to create your environment. What environment testing? What are the operating system you'll be using? What are the testing tool you'll be using? What kind of
Yes.
language you'll
Like
be
the
using?
planning,
Right?
Planning the whole thing,
Those
right?
all composite of those, all the things call it test bed.
Yeah. Okay.
Schedule and timeline of scripting and execution, right? And you have to also schedule your timeline of scripting when you're going to execute and get the result.
I have a quick question on this one.
Yes.
So when we are gonna when a company use automation, sometimes they don't have the script ready, and sometimes they do, or they get it from the open source, right? Or
They get it from open source means?
so the scripts, they have to write it
Yeah.
each time they do a automation test, or
Yes, yes.
oh, that
So every
also
time they're using the test cases, they're trying to automation, they need to write the test script, automation script in order to
is there
test the test
is
cases.
yeah, is there a different team for automation? They write the script and execute those things, or we are going to be executing those automation tests?
No. So automation, there will be automation team who is fully focused on writing the automation script, developed automation script. As a manual tester, you might able to run that post scripts test and get the result and verify the result whether the result is correct or not.
Okay. So as a manual tester, I would probably only be responsible for running automation test
Yes, running, getting the
result and verifying
result
them.
and
Yeah.
verifying them, and if there is a defect, you can give to the automation team that these are the defects you found with the automation result script. That means the script is not fully compatible with that test scenario what we are testing.
Okay. All right. That's more clear. Thank you.
And deliverable automation testing. And at the end, you need to deliver those automation testing with the script, right? And all the scenarios. So these are the design functions where you analyze the automation need, what are the automation tests you need to do, what are the scopes, all these things, and you then design the automation framework, how your testing will be organized, and then you develop your int and config script, right? Initial script and the configuration script. You need to also configure the tools, right? And then you need to create the script, and then you build the test suite. Test suite is what is the test suite? Jafar? Jafar is not there. Toha, what is the test suite?
Test scripts, like how do we write down the all
No,
process?
what is the test suites?
Test suite,
Yes.
build test,
Test
like how do
suites.
we run our
No,
script?
no. Polly, what is the test
So
suites?
it's the collection of test cases to run in it.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
collection of test cases.
one test case you can call test case, but if you have a 10 test case within the
Test
same
suite.
folder, you can say the test suites comprise of if many test cases together called the test suites.
Okay.
So, and then you deploy the test suites. Means you put in the production environment to test it. Clear? Any question here?
No.
The text execution, the automation script are excellent during this phase executed, and the scripts need input test data before they are set to run. And once executed, they provide details test. So whenever you are starting your execution of test suite, the test data, put test data, right? So you need to also create your test data Excel sheet or data provider from where you want to feed your data to your script. You need to be kept ready that also. And then you start your testing, and once executed, you can provide a test report that how many test cases pass, how many tests fail. Execution can be performed using the automation tool directly or through the test management tool, which will be invoke the automation tool. So, you can execute it. One way is that you can use automation tool through which directly you will be running your test cases, test scripts. Or you can use test management tool where you can kept your test cases and you can call from your test management tool those test scripts, and it will invoke that test automation tool and run your test. Clear? As an example here, you have a quality center, which is the management testing tool. And QTP is the automation testing tool. So one is the QC, quality center. There is a management tool, and QTP is the automation execution tool. So you can relate this QC with QTP and keep your all the test script in quality center. But when you're running, this quality center will invoke the QTP for automation script run. and it will be executed on a single machine or group of machines.
So this is the different software when I get a work we see.
Yeah, Quality Center, QTP, Selenium, those are all the different tools. The
So
QTP
well,
and
yes.
Selenium is the automation test tools.
Okay.
And
So
QTP
for
is a test
example,
management tool. Yeah, Quality Center is test management tool.
okay. For example, we're gonna write down something like our experience couple year, and we don't know what is this when you go the real field experience.
Yeah, you'll be alive. Don't worry. First, you need try to understand the things. Don't worry about that experience and all these things. Okay, so like Jira, right? Jira is
Yes.
a test management tool where through that you can create a test cases, you can create a bug defect report, all these things. You can create the velocity, team velocity, sprint velocity, all these things. Same as in Quality Center, you can create the effect, you can keep the test cases, manually execute the test cases here, QC. So these are different products from different company. QC is the product of the HP and Jira is the product of the Altasia. But both are management tools. Whereas QTP is the automation testing tool. In QTP, you can directly execute those test scripts you written in QTP and execute it and get the result. Same as like Selenium, which is open source, but QTP is the commercial paid version. So you have to pay for the license if you use a QTP because it is vendor oriented. But Selenium is a open source where you don't need to pay, anyone can use it. So you can use Selenium also directly, write your script and execute the script and get the result. But open source have some limitation because they don't come with the combine of all the things. If you want to run the report in Selenium, you need to add different open source tool like TestNG, Cucumber, all these things to incorporate with Selenium and get whole things. Whereas QTP has all these things bundled together. So that's why they are taking money because they work hard to provide you all the structured way of the application. And the execution can be done during the night to save time. So in QTP, in QC also you can schedule the execution, time, script, everything, and it can run directly during the night time. And also you can use the Jenkins other CI/CD tool, continuous integration, continuous deployment tool. So that also you can schedule your deployment, you're running your script. And test automation maintaining approach is the automation testing phase carried out the test whether the new functionality added to the software are working fine or not. And maintenance in automation testing is executed when new automation scripts are added and need to be reviewed and maintained in order to improve the effectiveness of the automation script with each successive release cycle. In maintenance phase, you can check whether if there is any function added, whether the function is running well or not. All these things you can use on the test maintenance approach. Any question here? So you have the test object, what you're testing, and you do the pre-test before your deployment, and you execute it and you investigate and access the outcome, what is right, went right or wrong, or whether it is ready for final production deployment or not. Any question, Toha?
No.
Oli, Hasib?
No.
Ahil, you okay?
What? Oli, you asking anything?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. So what is the framework? Hasib?
Framework. Just come on.
I said 10 minutes ago, right? What is the
Yes.
framework? Soha?
Framework is a structure,
Structure, yeah.
how to do the job.
Like
Okay,
we
so
decide what will be our environment and how
Yes.
we process like all the organized.
it's a guideline, right? It's a
Yeah,
set of
Yes.
guidelines or rules, the way you're going to perform your automation testing
Mhm.
or the process of the automation testing. So a framework is a set of automation guidelines which helps in maintaining consistency of testing. It improves test structuring. It minimum uses of code, less maintenance of code, improve reusability. Non-technical tester can be involved in code. The training period of the using the tool can be reduced, involves data wherever appropriate. So if you have the framework ready, in that way, the maintenance of the testing will be less because everything is in set, right? In a tree way or in a fashion manner way, right? And it also improve your test structure because all the things is structured where you kept everything the way it need to be. And you can minimum use of code. So you don't need to develop many codes. Instead, you can use same codes for different functionality, right? And in that way, you need to have a less maintenance of codes. And it also use the reusability because you can reuse the same code for different set of data for different functionalities, right? You can call those scripts within that script. And as a non-technical tester can also involve in coding, means like you can trigger the automation script to run it, you can see the result, you can verify the result. And you also get the training period of using tool can be reduced. Like if it is a structured way, then if you're getting a training, that can be reduced. You can easily understand how the tools is working. And it also involves data where appropriate because we also keep the data within the framework so that that script can feed the data from that database. Right? So this consists of test script, test environment, application of the test management tools, test automation tools, test result, and interface of CI, defect management tool. CI is the continuous integration tool, CI/CD. These are the altogether this is called a automation testing framework. Any question? And the test script, what you have? Anyone?
Objective,
The
right?
rules.
Then all information.
Yeah, all information is what? In the test script.
Like all information for the test cases.
Yes, so all the test cases which has been automated, right? Those test scripts
Yeah.
are kept in one places, right?
Yeah, like set of instruction.
Yes, and test environment. We've also created a test environment. What are the environment to be tested? In which environment to be deployed? All these things, right? What database
Yeah.
is going to be used? What kind of scenarios its test bed is created under test environment? Application under test is like what application we are testing, right?
Yes.
Test management tool, what are the tools we'll be using for automation or management tool? Then a test automation tool, what kind of automation tool you are using? And test result after test run, script run, what are the test result we are getting? It will be kept in one place in test result. And then you have interface for deployment or defect management tools. If you get any defect, you keep all the defects in one place where in QTP you can really keep and QC or in Jira, right? Those are the management tools for the defect. So consists of all these things is the automation framework and is a like structure. If you keep this framework as structure way, it will be easier for you to understand where is the result, where is the script, where is the defects, all these things. Clear? Any question?
Yeah, normally which test automation tool normally use the company now? Is
Different company
Selenium?
uses Different
Test
company
automation.
uses different tools. Some uses QTP, some uses Selenium, some uses Test Complete. There are a lot of testing tools depending on the company's budget, resources. If the company hires automation tester who knows Selenium only, if he is taking QTP, you don't know. So it will be not feasible for him to use the QTP, right?
Yeah.
So it's depending on like a resource, depending on the budget, because QTP again, you need to pay license fee. Whereas Selenium, there is open source, you don't need to pay any
It's
license
free.
fee.
Oh, that's
Yes.
not free of cost.
Yeah, but there is also a downstream to open source, right? Because you'll not get everything
Yeah,
together in
minimum
one place.
access. Yeah.
Like if you
minimum
want the test result with Selenium, you cannot get the test result. You need to add another open source tool, TestNG.
Oh.
And then you need to know the TestNG again.
That's pain.
Yeah, but in QTP, you don't need to know within the QTP, there is a data provider, there is a data Excel sheet included. You can feed the data from there, you can keep the result there. So it has a advantage, also disadvantage, where you don't have to pay the money for the free tools. But if you're paying money for the paid tools, you're getting advantage where you're getting this one of the open source.
Is it generally speaking, normally company buy this thing, no? If they need to pay.
What was that?
Like if any software pay, so company have to
Mhm.
pay.
Yes. If the company
And
want to
then company
use
will
the
charge their client.
QTP,
Yes.
they will not charge the client.
Like it's not only they will charge for the software, like whatever they will do, it will be included. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
indirectly
Yes.
it will be charged. Yeah.
Yes. So it's depending, right?
Yeah, they're like they will
Depending
be
on the
charged for their
budget,
project.
resource, money, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
There is no hard and fourth rule. Which tools they'll be using. It's depending on their budget, time, resource, all these things, skills. So what is the manual testing? It came back again. The manual testing. So what is manual testing?
Which testing normally we use the machine tools.
No.
Manual
What is the
testing.
manual
Manual, yeah.
testing?
Which testing we do as manually. So say we need to bug test, we need to performance test, we have to do this performance, and this is the manual testing.
No.
Manually do.
Sorry. Yeah,
Bye-bye.
manual
Pay
testing
attention, pay
occurs
attention, just
like
pay
when
attention.
anyone manually navigating through the application and executing the steps of the test cases manually and verifying the result. That is a manual testing.
Yeah.
If you say like this way, then the interviewer will understand, you know. If you say from here something and there something, it's like obviously you don't know. That's why I said like you have to read and understand.
Yeah.
It's not complicated, but again, if you don't read and understand, it's very complicated.
It's like manual testing is a process to test manually. Like
You need to add these things, like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's a process. Manual
Mhm.
testing is a process where
Mhm.
the tester manually
Test manually.
undergo the
Mhm.
test steps, execute them, and identify the results, right?
Find the bugs and fix it. Blah.
If there is any bugs, they find out bugs and they try to
Fix it.
send the defects to the developer to fix it.
Yeah.
And once it's fixed, they come and retest it, and then again they do it.
Retest it,
You can keep going on telling,
Yeah.
you know these things.
You need to
But you
wake up in
cannot
the
say like
morning
here
and
and there,
start
here and
brushing
there.
teeth.
It's very important that you use some of the technical words.
Mhm. IT words, software process.
So manual testing occurs when a team member manually navigates through the application searching for the bugs. To perform manual testing, the manual QA must look at the software application from end user point of view, right? Like not what you're looking, but how the user will be
Need it.
navigating the application, you have to think on that so that you can find maximum bugs. If you think on your way, maybe like you are a application geek, right? I mean, expert. If you think on your way, you might not see the effect. So you have to think as a user, normal user, how the normal
Yes.
user would be navigating the software applications, so that you can find the difficulties where it can be have difficult for them. We use the requirement documents that define all the features to perform manual testing. Therefore, if you have a poorly written specification documentation, manual testing may not bring the expected result, right? With manual testing, we can implement a highly intuitive application that user will prefer to work with. It mainly aims to UI and UX, like user interface, right? While an application can be tested manually, software application developed for mobile device and wearable must be tested manually to verify the bottlenecks. So this all the things, see here, 4 lines, right? These 4 points can be told to the interviewer if he is asking what is the manual testing.
Or any one of them, or just all four?
All four.
You can say all 4 in your own language, not necessarily whatever written like here is that. If you understand it,
Like we need to
you
keep
can
going
say
on.
it, you can say it in your own words.
Hmm.
But when you say in own words, include some of the technical words.
Make sure it makes sense.
Yes. So you don't say like here and there manual testing is a manual testing. Okay.
Mm.
You do the black box testing or white box testing. No. There is a different way. Because those are like a type of testing. I'm asking what is the manual testing. I'm not asking a type of testing. So you need to understand that question also very well. And what you are saying, you need to pay attention on that too. Clear? So what are the manual testing types? So there are several testing types: black box testing, white box testing, and gray box
Gray
testing,
testing.
right? Or gray box testing also called as what?
Is it combined?
What combined? There is another name, right, for the gray box. Polly, what is the name? You guys forgot. See? These are the very basic I started. And see, you guys are not able to tell. That means you never went to the documents, never studied. It's like very poor study from all of you.
Functional testing.
Gray box call another word is like structural testing, right? And mechanism or typely manual testing types. These are the testing types, right? So what is the black box testing? Black box testing is to test the functionality of the software, right? Application under test without knowing the internal code or structure of the application, right?
Yes.
And whiteboard testing is
Developer use the code.
what developer use the code? No.
This is the like a internal is one kind of manual testing. This programmer knowledge necessary to use the code to run the process.
Okay, so it's whoever doing the whiteboard testing, they need to know the internal coding structure or internal computer language, right? To write the code. That means like automation tester. They are like white box tester, right? They know the internal code and the application too. Whereas functional team is a black box tester because they don't know the programming language or code. They just know the functionality of the system. Right? And gray box testing is the combination who knows black box and white box both together. It's the called gray box or structural testing, right? So you need to evaluate the internal code structure also with the functionality, because whether the functionality is matching with the code or not, whether there is a code a defect or not. So if you are working as a manual and automation, you can call as a gray box testing, right? You're doing the gray box testing or structural testing because you know the code also, you know the functionality of the application also.
So what is the another name of gray box testing?
Flow.
Structure.
Structural. Okay.
Structure.
Yes.
So these are the types of manual testing: black box, white box, and gray box. Okay. Any question?
The white box testing, for that you need to know have to have a little bit of programming knowledge, right? So
Yeah, like automation tester can be a white box tester
but a
because they know
manual
the programming
tester,
language. They are called a black box testing. When they are doing the manually, it called a black box testing. So if you're doing any manual testing, it is a under black box testing.
black box testing, okay.
Right. If you're doing any automation testing, it is under white box testing. And if you're using manual and automation together, it is under gray box testing.
Gray box testing, okay.
Like you did manual test cases and then you are converting those test cases into automation test cases.
Automation test, okay.
So those method is under gray box testing.
Okay.
So what is automation testing, Pauline?
Just we do the testing like through the automation test.
Through the automation
Tools.
test?
I'm sorry, automation
Automation
tools.
tools.
Yeah, tools.
Using scripts and
That's all. And you just kept quiet.
After when we finish writing the script, we do the automation testing. Use different type of automation tools.
You're missing core things. Yeah, but the
Um,
same thing you're saying in different way. Same
Okay,
thing
what
you're
I
saying in
write.
two different way. Tell different things also.
So after creating a script, we run test cases through machine. We use the different tools to do automation testing.
So manual testing you don't run through the machine or you do yourself. It's also
And
the machine,
manual
right?
testing is usually done manually by the manual tester.
But still you're running with the machine, right? So what
Yeah.
you're saying is not compatible. What you're saying.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. Like the words
Oh.
you guys are using, those need to be logical and compatible.
Yeah, that's
If you're
what
saying
I'm trying to see what is
automation you're using through the machine, what about manual? You're using manual also machine, right? You're not writing anything. That Word, the Jira, whatever you're using is also under machine, right? The
But
application.
we run test cases manually, and in automation, we don't run test cases manually.
we have to use more heavy words. Like
Yeah.
automation testing is a software testing technique.
Yes, it's a technique where we create
Performance.
the automation script using different programming languages or using different programming languages, and we run the scripts through those testing tools and get the result, verify the result. If there's any defect, we go and fix the code to get the appropriate result. Whereas manual testing, we execute the steps by manually with using test management tools or manual test tools.
Yeah, we also use automation when there is like big data involved. We can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Special automated testing software tools.
Yeah. So if we carry out software testing with the help of test automation tools, search the bugs, we call it automation testing. Automation testing is a much faster software testing methodology than manual testing and outputs precise test result. The person who does automation testing is called a QA automation engineer. So see, these are like normal things. If you say this much also is enough. The main benefit of the automation process is that testers do not need to execute tests repeatedly. See, this is another point. You don't execute the test repeatedly, right? The testing tool can execute the same test case over and over again. Especially when there are frequent code changes, automation testing can be beneficial. In automation testing, the test script and the outcomes of the test are generated automatically with the assistance of the testing tool. So these kind of things you need to say.
Yeah, so we have to prepare ourselves.
To be a little particular on the word what you're saying. It should be logical and it should give some weight to the interviewer. That's why you need to include some of the IT words. Okay, clear? So this is automation testing where you are testing the help of automation tools to find the defects within the application, right? And this automation testing can be faster than manual testing, where the outcomes also be given precise test result, right? And the person who is doing the automation testing is called the QA automation engineer. There's a lot of many benefits of the automation process. One of the main major benefits is that you don't need to execute the test case repeatedly, whereas you can feed the data with the automation script and it can execute over and over and give the different result with the different set of data. You can say this like simple word, but I used some of the keywords, IT keywords in this what I told. So what are the automation testing types? There are some of the automation testing types. Unit testing, one of the automation type where we can use the unit testing to identify bugs, defects, and interferences for each component and software module in the application, right? So whenever you do the automation testing, you can do the unit testing. What is the unit testing again? Anyone?
Where we check the individual functionality of each test
Yeah,
case.
so we take a small functionality, small portion of the functionality. Maybe one functionality that has several features. We can take one of the features and do the unit testing. Means we can write that test script, automation script for that feature and run it and test it and see whether that functionality feature of the functionality is working well or not. And you can take the other feature, write it and test, and then together you can group it and run it together to see the whole functionality is working as a one or not. So unit testing is like a small feature of the functionalities, small part of the module of the application will be testing separately instead of together of that functionality. Okay. So in that way, you can identify the defects or bugs very easily. Application programming interface API testing. API testing verifies the application compliance, security, and functionality of the application. Because like whenever you are interacting with one system with another system, right? How it is interacting? It is interacting through the API modules. It is calling through the API modules to the other system, and that system giving the answer to the system if the system is connected, right? So that's how we check whether our environment, when we do our environment check, we can use the API testing. We can use the API codes to check whether the integrated system are working together or not, whether the system health is green or yellow or red. Regression testing is automation regression test, investigate and verify the modification applied to the application have not caused bugs, right? So same as the manual testing, you can do the regression test scripts, automation test script, you can create the regression test script where you can run the script and check whether the functionality is working fine before you implement any new functionalities within the system, right? Any question here?
Application programming interface testing, it's more like just making sure that we are processing it based on the requirement of the application programming and make sure that the security and functionality. Can you please describe it a little bit more?
Yeah, so API testing is like whenever one system integrated with others and how they recognize, we use like API codes,
To comply or?
yeah, to connect with each other.
Yes.
Like my application, front-end application is connected to my database server application, right? In there is API code that generate and connect
Tells us
the
what's
application to the server.
Okay.
And that's how the server can understand what application is calling and what information he is asking, and then reply back on that. So if the API codes are not stable or not suitable, right, the hacker can also hack it. Maybe password can be stolen, right?
Yeah.
The compliance can be compromised, all these things. So that's why you need to check all the API testing also. Like it kind of like smaller modules where you have like 3 or 4 comments you use, like pull, put, push, all these things. So basically API testing done through the non-functional tester who do like load and performance. They do the security API testing, all these things. But some company also have separate team who only does the API testing.
Because of
Any
security
question?
purpose, that's why? No.
Yes, security, vulnerability, data issue, SQL injections, all these things.
To do the API testing, do we need to have like learn something else, or it's just
For API testing, there are different tools you have to use, JMeter,
okay?
or you have to use Loader for load and performance security API. So the area is very vast.
Yeah.
You cannot learn everything in once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Any other question on this here?
No.
So when should manual testing be used? Tell me. Who knows? We just came up all the things there. We passed all the things. When you do manual testing and do automation testing, it's kind of again revised little bit, but little different way.
Like exploratory and ad hoc.
Then what else?
Like
Then
when there's a flexibility needed.
user experience test when we need it. That's what. Then we need a manual testing.
Cost reduction.
Was that
Cost reduction. No.
cost reduction?
Yeah.
One way.
You can't say that one way, but it's not true.
Yeah, like if there is thousands of users, if we try to do that manually, it's gonna be more costly than automated, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or very simple way, anti-automation test. When automation test is
Automation
not
test.
running, we can run manual testing.
So exploratory or ad
Yeah.
hoc testing, right?
Yeah.
So one of the testing you should do manually without automation, because this exploratory testing is investigating the feature of the software application without having a awareness of the requirement, right? You don't know any requirements, but you are just trying to explore the application, right? How the application is working, what are the things there, right? It's like exploring, right? So this is the first testing activity carried out against new features. Whenever there are new features, even though there is no requirements ready, you can go ahead and explore the system or application to see how so you can get some familiarity of the application and functionality of the application, right? And automating tests in the absence of ready-made test cases nearly impossible, which is why exploratory testing remains a domain of manual tester. So another one is usability testing. Usability testing is confirms whether a software application is user-friendly for the end user or not. In other words, the reason behind executing usability testing is to examine whether the end user can understand and manage the software without any difficulty. That is called usability testing. Whether the software we're building is user-friendly or not, or is it very difficult to understand or navigate through the application for the normal user, not for the expert. If someone is from IT background, it's easy for him. If someone from accounting background, how it will be for him. So you need to keep in mind that way, normal user, how they can easily use the application. You have to build the application in that way that it will be very easy for them to use it. And usually testing is defining that to see whether the software is user friendly for the end user or not. Okay.
Yeah.
Ad hoc testing. When performing ad hoc testing, you randomly test the application without following test document, business requirement, documents, or test design techniques. The purpose of ad hoc testing is to unveil unforeseen defects and bugs, right? So ad hoc and exploratory testing almost same, but there is a little different. Like, what is the difference? Anyone?
So ad hoc testing, like there will be no test cases provided.
So even exploratory testing, we don't have a test cases. What's the difference then? Even exploratory testing, we don't have any test cases, any
Yeah.
documentation, any
Yeah.
requirements. What is the
Ad
difference
hoc,
then?
no test document. And,
Find it, Toha. Find it.
Yeah, trying.
This is one of the interview question. What is the difference?
It's
What is
the
exploratory testing? What is the ad hoc
activity
testing? What is
carried out
the exploratory
against
testing?
is
What
it
is the ad hoc testing? What is the difference? Those are the interview questions.
texting activity carried out against new users. Whatever we have, we do same way. No anything new coming. No anything added new. But in ad hoc testing, if you need it, we can add something.
If we need it, what we need it?
Any document, any test.
No, we are not adding any documentation in ad hoc.
is it application?
Both have applications.
Yeah, both have the application.
Both doesn't have any documentation.
The ad hoc testing knowledge of software is acquired prior to its assessment. With explain.
So yeah, the busy one is without document, one is not without document.
No,
Ad hoc
Well,
is
both are is without document.
without document, but
The main is unveiled, the ad hoc, and the other one is not. Or
Unveil the defect. Both you are doing the finding the defect, right? Or no?
one is application without following test
Yes.
document. Another one
So-
follow the test document.
So
Yes.
see the point here. Unforeseen defect and bug. In
Yeah.
exploratory testing, you're not trying to find any defect or bug of the system, even though you
Oh.
don't have any
Okay.
documentation, anything. You just clicking here and there and just trying to see how this more function is working, how this function is working, right? Like you went for a safari park and you just seeing the things. Whatever coming in front of you, you're seeing it, right? But if you are going to see the tiger only, then you will be looking, right, where the tiger is hiding. You'll be looking here and
Yeah.
there, right? Especially
Yeah.
for the tiger only. You're not looking any other things because you set your mind that I need to see the tiger.
Yes.
So in ad hoc, you are testing to see if there any defect or not. Whereas in exploiter, you're not thinking of any defect. You're just thinking of how the application is working. That's the only difference. Both doesn't have any documentation. Both doesn't have any test cases, any design techniques, nothing.
Yeah, exploratory is itself defined by the name. You're just exploring. If you find something, then
Yes.
you do or not. Yeah. The name explains it. Yeah. Exploratory.
So there's a difference. Here you are testing intent to have mind to find a defect or unveil the defect. But here you are doing testing to explore the application, to be familiarized with the application, how it works, what are the
But if
functions there.
but if we find any bugs or defect when
That's
we're
fine. If you find bug, that's fine.
yeah, but we're not actively looking for it. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. We're just testing the application. Yeah.
you're just getting familiarity with the application.
Yeah.
That if I click here, this open. If I click here, this open. This is the functionality of this. This is how I do it. But here you are exploring the application in order to find the bugs. Okay, if I click here, this is supposed to happen. If it is happening or not, I'm looking at that.
Yeah. It's similar, but it's not. Yeah.
Yes. Clear, guys?
It's not the same thing. Yeah.
yes.
Polly, Jafar, Toha. This is the second time I'm telling the things again. And you guys are not clear the first time.
Exploratory testing, ad hoc test. Okay.
So what are the advantages of manual testing over automation testing? Who can tell?
I'm
What
sorry,
is the
what's
advantage? What is the advantage of automation testing over manual testing?
Automation, you use the tools and to find it, and manual, you have to do manually test and no.
automation testing is useful for multiple things. One of them is like it saves times when it's like when you're testing for like stress test and load test.
What do you mean by stress test?
I'm sorry.
What do you mean by stress test?
So it's
Okay, what
like
is the advantage?
yeah. So if I want to suppose if my application is used by I say that it can be used by 1,000 users at a time. If I want to test that manually,
I'm not telling you to explain what is the load test. I'm telling you to give me some points of why the automation test is
it saves time.
have an advantage over manual.
Reusable.
Yeah, so save times, cost effective, reusable, faster, right?
And the
Faster, yeah.
tools run the script
Execution.
like over
Those are the things,
it
right?
doesn't need to be run manually, yeah. And the results are highly accurate in automation.
More
Yes.
accurate.
Yeah, highly, yeah, and more, yeah.
Yeah, highly accurate, more accurate. Yeah. Is it? It is. Yeah.
Yes. What is the similarity in the automation and manual?
Similarities. Okay.
The
Yes.
similarity just we just test in both settings.
I think both in
No.
framework or structure.
Both need a
is
bug
not the same.
defect.
What?
Both need a bug defect.
Defect log the defect, but
Not that one. I mean, both are testing, both are defect. You know
yeah.
that those are like general thing. But what is the similarity? So like manual test depends on what?
Human manual
Testing
test.
tool. Manual
the
testing
testing
tool.
tools. Mhm.
And automation used like automation testing tool, right? Both are. So human depends on human resources and depends on testing tool, right?
Yeah.
And it's also like some of the things are same, right? Like we use the ad hoc testing for both manual and
Yes.
yeah.
And then QA team follows written test cases in manual testing, right?
Yeah.
But in automation testing, it depends on the testing
They
tools,
follow
right?
the test
Sorry.
script, right?
Yes. Highly accurate result and does not guarantee good UX.
Mhm.
But in manual, it ensures the highly and UX, right? User friendly or user interface. With
Oh, yeah.
automation, you cannot do it, but manually you can do that. So those are the some of the differences scenarios for the manual and automation testing tool. So what is the typical manual testing process?
What is the typical manual processing process?
So the manually we do first unit testing and then we do the system testing
Mm,
and
no,
we do
is it like we have to identify what are the tests?
We do the
Yeah,
unit
no, that's
testing
fine.
and then we do the integration
Oh.
testing, right?
Then
No,
system
you-
testing.
no unit and system, then integration, and the last one is accepted testing.
Acceptance testing.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
like unit, system, integration, acceptance.
Yeah, so this is the process of manual testing. You do first unit testing, right? Where you test, perform, confirm whether a module of software source code is functioning as expected. Bugs detected at this stage are much easier to solve, and typically unit tests are performed in an automated fashion. However, some teams perform them manually, right? So these unit tests can be automated or you can manually perform it,
Manual
depending
both,
on
yeah.
the developer how they are going to do it. And then we do the system testing, right?
System testing, yeah.
System testing confirms whether the entire software application performs as expected or not, because all the systems are stable or not. And you do the integration testing.
I have a one question here.
Yes.
Can we do like a before system testing, we can do integration testing? Now we have to do integration system first, then second, then we have to third like integration testing.
Of course, you have to do system like database is there one system. You have to see whether database system is working fine or not, right? Then your upstream, downstream, middle stream, all the systems need to test separately first. Then you have to integrate those things to work together, right?
Like step by step.
Yes.
Okay.
Big Bang approach.
If you did not test them separately,
How are we
your
going to set?
database, your middleware, your frontware, and your backend separately, let's say, and you
Mhm.
just integrated it, and you get error. Now, how you pinpoint where you're getting error? Front-end error, middleware, or your lower environment?
Yeah, we learn like we do before unit, then system, then integrate, then acceptance. But
Yeah.
I see that like in I don't know where, like YouTube, they told me it is depends on the company or team, which one they do for system or integration.
No. So these are steps. You do system testing, then you integrate the systems together. What you are integrating, actually? Integration testing, what you are trying to integrate? Tell me that.
In integration testing?
No, no, if I'm going to say system testing comes after integration testing, so what I'm trying to integrate first?
We have to make sure the software works first, and then we can try to check that integration testing, because
With one another, yeah.
yes, because it's integration testing is we are testing that the app that we develop is working fine with the other apps, right? Is
Yes.
it? Yeah.
They
So
integrate the software, no?
Mhm. Yeah.
so unless
So
I ensure that the app
there
is
there
running.
is another way you can talk. You can integrate also modules,
Yeah, module.
Okay.
right? So let's say if you're doing integration testing after unit testing,
Yeah.
that means you're not integrating whole thing as a one system. In that case, the integration is coming only for the modules, not for the system.
Okay.
So for the module, it's the same, right?
No, no,
So
I'm saying in other way, if you want to say I want to do the
yeah,
integration
okay.
first and system testing
Mhm.
second, that way is not like a actual process the way you are doing the unit system integration acceptance, because that integration is not a true integration testing you are doing. You are integrating only modules of the functionality.
Yeah.
It's not integrating whole system like up front and middleware and back end. So when you're doing integration testing, if you're telling a true integration testing, then it will come after system testing only, because you need to check the system individually first.
Okay, if I want to give an example, like I'm building a calculator, so there is no dividing option in there. So I'm adding that module in there.
Mhm.
So I have to test the system testing first, that it works with other functions, and then I mean it works as a whole system, and then do the integration testing to see that it works with the other functions.
Yes.
Mhm.
So calculator, instead of calculator,
Yeah.
let's say I give you an example of a car.
Yeah.
So car, your engine is one part, right, of the car.
Correct.
The body is the one part of the car.
Mhm.
The wheels is one part of the car, right?
Okay.
The
These are
brakes,
units.
accelerator, those are the one parts of the car, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm building the car, and I took those parts as unit tests separately.
Yes.
All these brakes separately, accelerator separately, horn separately, light separately, body, all these
Mhm.
parts separately, unit testing, right?
Correct.
Now I'm going to do integration testing or system testing. So let's say if
Which
I
one?
want to do the system testing first,
Okay.
right?
Oh, yes.
Then what I should do? I should integrate the brake, escalator, right?
Yeah.
Together,
Everything.
right?
Yeah.
No, the brake and escalator together, right? Modules with my engine, right?
Yes.
But before I'm putting in the engine, I need to integrate these two, right? It should be integrated, and it should be placed on the my leg right down there. It should set there, right?
Yes.
Now I need the light. I have two lights. So I need to integrate that light, right? In one switch, both lights should be come out, right?
Okay.
Not two switch I will be using for two headlight, right?
Right.
So those integration is like module-based integration, right?
Yes.
Those is not still integrated with the system where the main engine will be handling all these things, right? Because if the car is not start mode, nothing will be happening, right?
Right.
So when you are integrating all these things, there is a system integration totally with the system, and you check those differently, separately.
Okay.
So you can say that I did the system testing and then I'm integrating all the things together as a whole car. But if you're doing integration testing fast, you
Okay.
can say I'm integrating modules fast. Then
Okay.
I'm doing the system testing as a whole of that
Yeah.
integrated module and the system module together.
And then do this again. Yeah. Integration testing. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, got it.
Okay, so this integration testing executes integration test ensure the interface between the software and functions with one another, the functionality. And it uses the following approaches: Big Bang approach, top-down, and bottom-up approach. And exception testing, the tester and user carry out UAT, which is the fourth level of testing to verify function of the overall application is working fine, which is the user acceptance testing. So this is a typical process. But as I said, if you want to flip it, system integration up and down, you can do that other way. But there is not a typical process. Okay?
So you have to test it in order.
Yeah, it's better you test in order. Okay, this 10:15. I will stop here. We'll go over on Monday. Yeah, sorry, Sunday.
Sunday.
Okay,
Sunday,
Yes.
hour 11 o'clock, no?
11 o'clock, yes.
Okay.
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 So go through these things and read. More you read, more you'll know. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, then everyone. Good night. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so last time on the stop course until automation framework, right?
Yes. Framework is the structure. I couldn't answer it the last time.
Yeah, what is the framework?
It's like the workflow, like organized workflow, right?
This-
It is a structure of or
Structure.
guidelines how your automation script will be used. And in your automation script, like all the informations, right? Data script, environment, application. What are the managed tools you will be using? What are the automation tool will be using? Test result, where you keep the test result, and what are the defects management tool will be? All will be streamlined. So organizing the total test process. Okay, so automation testing versus manual testing. Or is automation testing or manual testing? See,
Manual testing is where we manually by human test each units and everything, and the automation is where we write script to run the tests.
so manual testing is where
I'm sorry.
we do manually testing by
Yeah.
navigating through the applications and try to find the bugs and perform
Yeah.
testing on the executing the testing steps manually using
Yes.
the manual testing
This,
tools.
this is.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And automation testing will be using automation testing tool where you can write the scripts and execute the scripts and
It will run
verify
on
the
the
result, right?
Yes.
The manual testing types are black box, white box, and gray box. What is the black box? Polly?
So whenever we do the test and we know the code, no, we don't know the code.
No.
Sorry, you do not. Yeah. So the like
Okay,
the
so it's like functionality, right? You're testing the
Yeah.
functionality without knowing the internal code or
Code.
internal structure of the application.
yes.
White box to ha?
This is the testing. We use the code to run the script.
So you write the different programming
Yeah, like
language,
one is
right?
code, one is no code.
Knowing the
Yeah,
code.
so white box is we write the programming language, write the scripts through the programming language, right? Where you know the
Yes.
internal application codes, right? What is the gray box section, Safar? Zafar
জাফর ভাই কে আছে? না,
is Vinish. Okay.
It's
he's
like
not.
combination of white box and gray black box test.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a combination of the white box and black box testing where you use the internet
Internal
code and
code,
structure to evaluate the software functionalities, right? And what is the automation testing types?
Yeah.
We need
Like
testing,
unit testing,
API
API,
testing,
regression.
integration testing, right? In testing, we do what do we do in unit testing?
Which one?
Do-
Oh, integration testing.
We do this testing to identify the defects, bugs, or any interfaces of each component, right?
Yeah.
So we test the modules separately as a unit.
It's like each unit, testing each unit.
Yeah. Application programming API testing is the verifying the application compliance, security, and
Security.
functionalities.
And
Regression testing is
like after adding or modifying any functionality in application, then we test again if the previous functionalities are working with the
Yeah.
modify or ADD.
so if there is any modification or changes in the code, we investigate through the regression testing to verify whether the modification code does not have any adverse effect of previously modules, right?
Mhm.
What is the benefit of automation testing?
I'm sorry, what is that?
What is the benefit of automation testing?
Automation testing is
We can save the time.
yes, and when it's like large data involved,
Uh-huh.
automation testing saves a lot of time.
Yeah, though it takes
And so
time
it-
to write down
like-
the script, but it runs automatically and it's faster.
If
And-
the testing type is repetitive, it also like automation testing saves our time.
And also it detect the bug automatically, and then so manually we don't do that, right?
No. They don't
There was something like it can do overnight. What was that?
Detecting the bugs is same thing. Like manually you can detect the bugs, or automation creating the script you can detect the bugs, right? But automation testing, another benefit is you can run the automation testing overnight, right? So it does not consume
Yeah,
your
that
time,
was.
and you can see the result in the morning and you can fix
Okay.
it. So when the manual testing will be used, we use the manual testing when there is a exploratory testing, or
Exploratory
usually
test.
testing and ad hoc testing, right?
Mm.
Exploratory testing is nothing but exploring or testing the features of the applications
Mhm.
Yes.
without having any requirements or any test cases. And kind of like fast testing activities carried out against the near future. When there is a near future, you do the exploratory testing to understand the functionality of that features. Usability testing
Usability.
confirms whether a software application is user friendly or not for the end users, right? And ad hoc testing,
It's like there will be no test cases providing. It will be based on the tester experience.
Yes, so
That
based on the tester experience, you randomly test the application without following any test cases or any test
Test cases.
documentation or requirements techniques, right?
Yeah.
But the purpose of this testing is to find any unforeseen defect and bugs. Where in exploratory testing, you are not testing it, keeping in mind that you are going to find the bugs. You're just exploring the functionality of the
Yeah.
application.
So
There's
is
a
the goal
difference.
is not to find out the bug, right?
No. In exploratory testing, the goal is not to find the bugs, but
Yeah. Mhm.
rather than familiarize with the application, the
Explore
functionalities
around,
of the
yeah.
application.
Mhm.
Whereas ad hoc testing, you are testing it, keeping in mind that you might find the bugs or
Mhm.
defects. So advantage of the manual testing over the automation testing, manual testing is a depend on a human resource. You can you'll follow the written test cases, and sometimes it's prone to human errors, and it ensures high user interface. Whereas automation testing, you write the test scripts, it depends on the testing tools, and it has accurate result and does not guarantee you the good UI experience. And manual testing processes, unit testing, software testing, integration testing, etc. testing. What is the unit testing, Habib?
Unit testing is like where we test each functionality separately, and if we find any bugs, we fix it and then test it again. That's unit testing.
Software testing, Jafar. System testing. Taha.
System
What is
testing is
system
one of the
testing?
one of the manual testing where system work. We see the system, how the system work, performance unexpected.
So as a whole system, how the system is working, right?
Yeah.
Performing.
Yes.
Integration testing, Polly?
Which one? Integration testing.
Yes.
So integration testing. So we see if the different module is working with one each other properly.
Yeah. So it's ensure the interface between the software are functioning with one another, right? And you can use different approach for the integration testing, which is big bang approach, top-down approach, or bottom-up approach. Acceptance testing. Anyone?
Acceptance testing, like when the end of the manual testing, and this is the how the user acceptance or customer accept this testing.
Like we check the functionality of the overall application.
For
Yeah,
different
so
browsers, or is it just
if the requirement is for different browser, you need to test that also, right?
okay? Yeah.
Yes.
But overall, your
Yep.
testing should be accepted by the end users.
Yeah.
So what are the steps for manual testing? There are several steps you can follow for manual testing. One is investigate and examine the requirements, defining the software requirement, specification documents, SRS. And then you plan and create the clear test case in such a way that the test case cover each requirement specified in the SR document, right? So you write these test cases based on the SRS documents so that all your test case should cover all the requirements, right? And then you get the approval of the test case from the Q lead, right? So your Q lead or Q manager give you the approval that you can go ahead with that, because before that you will have a team meeting with the managers, lead, the team, developer, and the client also to see whether those test cases are fine or test scenarios are fine to execute it, which covers their all specification. And then you execute the test cases and run through the ad hoc test scenarios, right? And if you find any defects, analyze it and retest it after the fix, right? And report the defective bugs and work with your developer until receiving the fix all bugs. So these are like general process of manual testing. You investigate and examine requirements, analyze it, plan your testing and create all the test cases. Review with the team members and clients, execute the test cases, do the test scenario that running. And if there is any direct bugs, you analyze that test result to see what are the defects you found, report those defects to the team, right? Team members or project members. And then send those defects to the developer for fix it. Once they fix it, you retest it. That's how you complete your manual testing. Clear? And also the automation testing processing, there are also some steps you can follow to automation testing process. What are the steps? You collaborate with your testing team to understand critical business function and the SU test, right? So that means like you're trying to define the scope of the automation, right? What are the test scenario test cases can be automated or not, which should be a good candidate for automation. Need to pick up those test cases from your test bed. And then you examine the test requirement and outline the test goal. So based on your requirement, you have to examine whether the test cases you chosen that's covering a requirement or not. And then you execute test cases to ensure understanding of the flow of the objective. So before you write the test cases, you can execute those manual test cases to understand how the application is working, because you will be writing the script based on those things, right? If you don't understand how the application is working, you cannot write the script. And then determine if the automation test is possible, and then you have to determine whether the steps you're taking to execute those test cases, whether it is possible to automate or not, because there are some steps that is harder or that is impossible to automate. Then plan and create the strategy for automation test. You need to create the test strategies for the automation test, and then you prepare your environment, right?
For automation execution.
For your automation execution, like ensuring that you have all the manual testers and all the data, all the limitations there, and you verify whether you can consume all the data for your automation test or not. So everything you should prepare before you study your automation test script written. And then write the automation script with the real test data along with the edge cases that test is applicable. And then you write your test cases scripts with your test data. And execute the test and fix any issues and execute it. And if there is any issues with the script, you fix it, like debug it and run it, right? And then you get the result, you examine the result, whether all the test cases pass or not. If it's failed, why it is failed, you need to find it out, right? Which is the defect, detect the bugs and other defects while analyzing the test result. And report the detected bugs and work with the developers until recover a fix. And then you need to set the test script to run it and find out whether your script run passed or failed after fixing. So basically what you're gonna do, Hasib? Tell me the
So
simple word.
yeah,
Steps.
basically we have to understand like well, with the manual testing, is there any scope to integrate automation testing? If there is, build a strategy for that and prepare the environment. And after that, we have to write the scripts. Yeah, and test it and fix if there any issue with the script. And then we also have to review the results as well. And then if there is any bug, report those bugs and work with the developer to fix those, and then determine how frequently we are going to do the automation testing.
Yeah, so again, after fixing the bug, you need to rerun the test script again, right? To see all the fixes are completed. And then you can determine how frequently you can use the script, whether you're going to use script every day or every week or every release or every new functions we added, those kind of things. So, Polly, clear?
Yeah.
So these are the top automation tools on the right side.
Yeah, so
Right.
these are the automation tools. You can use the Selenium, Ranorex, Test Complete, UFT, Tosca, Wait Test Project, IBM Rational, Robot, Those are the automation testing tools from different vendors. Like Selenium is the open source.
Okay. So
Test
for these,
Complete, UFT, those are like vendor. Tosca, there's also a vendor. This is from IBM Rational, this is from IBM.
okay, to be able to do automation tools, we have to know how to run the script, write the scripts, right? I mean,
To run the script, you don't need to know how to write the script.
okay,
But if you want to develop the automation script, then you have to know how to develop the script.
okay, is it like Java or the script is different? Like how do what?
It's like if you're working with Selenium, it's if you know the Java, it's same thing with the Selenium.
Okay,
If you're working UFT, you have to know VB script programming, VB programming. So you can work with the UFT or QTP.
okay,
And Tosca, it is like a kind of a object-oriented programming. So these are also like C++ or C#.
C#, okay.
So these are like different tools are engaged with like different programming language.
Mm,
So I gave you Java because we'll be using Selenium open sources, most familiar.
most of the company,
Yeah, because these open source, they use like Java with Selenium. But many companies also use the UFT, which is HP. Many companies use IBM Rational, and newly there some of them are moving to Tosca. Anything else? Any question?
No.
So what is the advantage and disadvantage of manual testing? So advantage of the manual testing is universally applicable, means like anywhere you can use manual test process, right? In any applications, you can use it. And excels with limited scope project, manual testing is the ideal testing mechanism for short life cycle products, right? They're like short projects. And handles requirement updates. Manually you can handle your projects update. Is there any requirement changes, right? Wherever the project has a frequently change requirements, manually it's easier to handle it. And makes your GUI change easier. If there is any GUI changes, you can manually test it, right? The user interfaces. Human eyes having eyes on your application can help you find UI mistake or causes before the end user, right? So if there is any UI differentiate, right? With automation it's little difficult, but with you can see like what is the differences by seeing with your eyes, right? Whether the box is big or small or it's same, right? Kind of things. Cheaper compared to automatic tests, manual tests are most cost effective, right? Because you don't need anything, even though without test tool, you can test it, right? With Excel and Word using.
Yeah.
Lower test complexity, tests are much easier to maintain than automation test cases because in the automation testing, you need to prepare your testing framework, but manually you can use it easily. You can just write your test case in the Word, kept it, right? Or Excel. Faster test creation and also creating the test is faster because you don't need to write a script, right? You can write the steps, how you're testing it based on your product testing, right? And less technical skill, you don't need to have manual testing that much skill like automation does need it.
Yeah.
And uncover more bugs. Manually, you can uncover more bugs than automation because automation is only uncover the bugs based on your test script what you've written, but manually you can do more, right?
Yeah.
And precursor of automation, creating the test scenario and running them manually must happen before automation can begin. So if you do your begin your automation, manually you need to verify requirements and test case test scenarios. So those are the advantages of the manual testing. But there is also some disadvantages on the manual testing, which is time consuming, right? If it is a big project, complex test scenarios, it will take your time to test it. And also increase staffing. And then like with automation script, without human, you can run it. One human can run 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times. But if you want to manually run it, you need 100 manual tester to run same interval time, right?
Yeah.
So increase the staffing. Human error, manual test cases are prone to human error and misunderstanding.
Misunderstand.
But An automation, whatever you feed it, it will give you accurate, same thing. It will not
Yeah,
mistake
because
anything.
it's offered by machine.
And increase long-term cost, and manual test also increase long-term cost, means manual time is costly compared to automated testing ongoing software project, because even though you don't have a work, you'll be there, right?
Yeah.
Not as a reusable. And also manual testing is hard to use because every steps you need to execute, it will take time.
Mhm.
So it's not reusable friendly. Whereas a script can be reusable very easily once you developed it. But to develop the script, there is also some cost and time involved, right? Required retesting. Manual testing cannot be executed on different operating platforms parallel to reduce test execution time. So whereas like the automation script, you can execute the same script on different OS operating system parallelly.
Mhm.
But manually it's tough. You need like more human resource and operate it on different operating system. Test it. And also there is a time limitation, hour limitation, expecting executive manual test cases only limited to working hours of the QA tester, right?
Yeah.
Because overnight, if someone
Overnight
gonna work it,
automation can run.
then
Yeah.
I mean they can execute it, but they have to pay it, right? But
Mhm.
in automation script, you don't need it. You just click that script run and then you go and sleep.
Mhm.
So these are the disadvantages of the manual testing, and this is the advantage of the manual testing. So there is also interview question might come. What is the advantage and disadvantage of manual testing? Or what is the advantage and disadvantage of manual testing over automation testing? Or what is the advantage of automation testing over manual testing? And what about the automation testing? So advantage of this automation testing is test run efficiently, means the test case can run faster
Mhm.
than manual,
Mhm.
and better long-term RIO because return on investment,
On
because once you
investment.
create the script, you can use the script long time, right? Without any manual resources that much. One resource can run that scripts, all the scripts. More flexible, automated testing is more reliable, powerful versus watercell, and excels at regression testing, right? You can also like manual testing, automated testing can take the data from the Excel sheet and feed the data to the script to run it.
Excels at regression testing. Can you?
So
Oh,
when you are doing the regression testing, right, you kept all your data in the Excel sheet, right?
I mean, it's saying that regression testing doing manually, doing automation is better than manual.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So regression testing, like let's say there are like a new model we are going to implement, right?
okay.
Now we created a regression test suite where we have maybe like 20 test scenarios, like major scenarios of the functionalities, right, of the application. So every time there is a new functionality, we need to run that regression suite to see that before implementing your new modules, everything is running fine without any defect. Because if we don't do that, we don't run the regression suite, then if we implement the new modules and then we see there is a defect, right? Now, you cannot determine the defect, whether the defect is because of the new implementation or the defect is because of different functionalities. So it will be harder for find out root cause of the defects you're getting.
In manual testing, then automation.
No, in both cases, in manual testing, in automation, in both cases. But the problem is every time you run the test suite, it will take you maybe like 20 test cases to run it. If you say manually, if you run one test case, let's say 20 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 20 test cases is going to take you 200 minutes.
Yeah. Or in the case of automation, it's not going to take me that much time. Yeah.
So in automation test cases, it might take you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's why it's saying Unlike
Regression.
manual test, automated testing is the ideal for regression testing. So normally we do it for regression testing, we create a automation script because that is every time we need it to use it.
Yeah, okay, got it. But for regression testing, when we are doing automated, it's like we have already built up a script and it's just gonna run every time we want to do the regression
Yes,
test.
yes.
Okay.
You just trigger that regression suite, it will run. Health check is done. Now we can implement. And now if there is any defect, we can say that the defect is because of the new module implemented. So
Got it.
the defect is lied on the modules we just now implemented, not the before modules we already kept it.
Okay.
And it also is repeatable,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And it helps ongoing project. Automated testing is the ideal test method for project with a long development duration. And it removes human errors because whatever the script you're creating, it will give you exact the result.
Yeah.
And you can also
Parallels, run.
parallel the test run. Automated testing can be executed on different operating platforms in parallel and reduce test execution time, right? And it also boosts the test coverage because more automation testing will enhance the test coverage because you will be creating the testing coverage around the test cases. And decrease staffing needs. So like 10 people can run 100 script in 1 hour. One resource can run maybe 1,000 scripts in 1 hour. And always running, automated testing can be executed at a time, day or night, right? So you can schedule the time and it can run anytime you want. Those are the advantage of the automation, right? But still there is some drawback of the automation also, which is a require stability. Automation testing can only be used to suitable, stable and already developed product. So any product that is not developed, you cannot use the automation, right? It's not suitable because you need to understand the requirements, find the solution scenarios, test case, all these things. Then only you can start your automation. So any product that is not developed, is not gone through the manual test process, and there is no clear test cases created, you cannot do the automation. Clear?
Yeah.
It also higher initial cost. Initially, it takes more cost and time because you need to develop your script, and also you need the skillful resources who have a knowledge of programming language to create the automation script. So initially the cost is higher, but in the long run, ROI is a very very higher return on investment.
Beneficiary, yeah.
Automation tool cost, and also there is a tool cost if you're using vendor related tools which are more constructive than open source resources. So open source resources are not constructive because if you want to do different things, you need like different open source tools to integrate together to run as a whole. But if you're using the vendor applications, those are already constructed in a fashion way. So you can run everything in one tool. So that's why you need to pay the licensing fee
Yeah.
and to buy it. You cannot test visual components. Automation testing does not allow you handling specs of such as the capture, visual elements of the graphical user interface like fonts, color, size, etc. Those things are very tough and you cannot automate that. You can hard code some of the things like fonts, the colors, or the size inside your script. Higher skill level required, and automated testing is also complicated compared to the manual testing when defining the outline script. So you also need the tool experience, the programming language experience skills to write the test scripts. Clear?
Yes.
Any question? For manual automation, the balancing act. So the correct balance of the software testing manual automation is essential to achieve the maximum benefit of testing and fulfill all the test requirements. At very first task, we got to consider some of the following aspects, right? What is the usability requirement and duration of the project? Usability requirements is the manual approach if the application focus more on usability than functionality, right? So in the application, you have the functionality and you have also the usability. So when the usability requirement comes, rather than functionality, you focus on the usability, how the uses of the application, like end user, how it will be easier for them to navigate through the application and do their daily job, rather than going through the functionality. And also the duration of the project, like how long it will take for your manual test execution to implement it, if you want to automate the test, all these things. So in both cases, manual testing is a must. So you cannot say that there is 100% automation in the company without any manual intervention. So after considering usability and project duration, we need to identify the test scenarios for the manual and automation execution, and depending on the test scenarios, quality and weight, the key lead must allocate sufficient testers for each method, right? As you can see, human resource is a vital factor when you test manual. So after considering those things, the project manager or the team member will be divided into or allocated into different areas for their project. And the right balance of the test methods guarantees a successful software project free of the bugs and defects, and it will also help to control the cost and optimize the test coverage, right? So if you have a 10 team member, and if I put, let's say 7 team member in automation group and 3 member in a test manual test group, the balance is somehow like is not perfect, because before my automation approach started, you need to manually write your test scenarios, right? You need to create the test cases, you need to create your SRS documentation, right? So the more focus will be manual side rather than automation side. So by dividing the group in a 3:7 or 7:3 is not perfect balancing for any manual automation testing. So in that way, maybe we can shift that to opposite way, maybe 6 of them in manual and 4 of them in automation. So the manual coverage will be more faster, then automation people will not need to wait more, right? So you need to check that balancing also, that how you are defining your team with manual and automation group. So does automation replace the manual testing?
No.
So automation supplement manual testing and frees up manual tester to perform ad hoc testing rather than repeatedly running the same test on multiple browsers. And automated tests have their place on more significant projects, but provide less values for short-lived or rapidly changing projects. So it does not wipe out, or it does not replace manual testing if you're doing automation. But what will happen? Maybe the percentage will be more or less, but he cannot fully dismiss the manual testing process. So both manual and automated testing is essential during a software testing process, and we cannot depend only one method. We need to have both of them, and it would be best to have good idea about test cases worth automating and which is not. Otherwise, even if you are doing automation testing, it is a waste of time, because your outcome will be faulty and it will not match your requirements. And if it is not match your requirements, the client will not be accepting your product, and that will be losing your business. So either you're doing manual testing or automated testing, you have to do the balancing for the team, that in a group, in a such a way in the group that it will be most efficient for the team members or for the project. Any question here?
No.
Polly?
Good.
So what is the automation testing framework? So all software must undergo testing before being made available to user, right? And the software testing is an essential step in the development life cycle, since it ensures that user must receive a high quality product that serves the purpose for which it has been developed. Therefore, automation testing framework is a fundamental to any software testing process. So what is an automation testing framework? It's a framework is a set of guidelines or standards for designing and writing effective test cases. A framework consists of various procedures and tools intended to aid QA, especially in conducting tests more quickly and efficiently. So it is a combination of all the testing methodologies, testing framework, testing tools, test scenarios, test case, everything.
Management.
So the framework may include guidelines such as coding standard, technique for processing test data, object repositories, procedures for storing the test result, and instruction on accessing external resources, right? How you're gonna access your test data, where you're gonna keep your data so you can access it through the script, what will be your object repository, what techniques you'll be using, what are the coding standard you'll be using. Combining all these things are considered as a automation testing framework. What is the object repository? Anyone have idea?
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
Object repositories. Did you guys understand this object repositories? What does that mean?
Repositories means
Toa, any idea, Polly?
No.
So object repository is a place where all the objects will be kept. So like if you're writing the
yeah.
script,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And in the script there is a instruction that
All
find
information.
this object, right? Find
Yeah.
this object, find this box. So the script will try to find this box through what? The object repository. It will go whenever come to this line, find this box. It will go to the object repository and check whether that box is present in the object or not. Means all the information of that box. How is the height? What is the length? What is the color? All these are kept in the object repository. So that it checks and then it finds it execute that result. So there is a call object repository where all the information of the object kept inside. Clear?
Yes.
So mostly like in QTP, we see this object repository because QTP has a methodology that uses object repository to find the objects. And if you don't use the object repository, then you can hard code with your script that the color will be black or color will be red, height will be this much. Then the script will not go to the object repository to find those things instead because it already has the information with the script. So it will bypass the object repository and it will execute the script. Clear? So what is the importance of the automation testing framework? The use of automation testing framework have become essential in modern software development and testing process as it allows reusing the code in different scenarios and in writing standardized test script for the team. So it can help to avoid human intervention and improve test coverage and promote team collaboration. So basically, by having your automation testing framework, your team member can know where the script has been kept. If I tell you run this script, right? If there is no automation framework, it will not easier to find you the script and run it. But if you know if it is the automation framework, then you know where the script is, where the data is. You can run it, you can take the data, you can analyze the data, right? So it's improve your collaboration, it improves your test coverage. And also automation testing framework are useful for running the same test script repeatedly with various build to analyze the application and verify the output. And overall, using automation testing framework is a critical component of the comprehensive software quality assurance strategy that takes care of every problems, right? And this is also useful when you're running same test scripts repeatedly. Like if there is if there is a defect, you found a defect, it has been verified and fixed by the developer and tested by the test team. Then the release team will release a new build. And then if you want to test it again, that build, before you test your whole functionality, you can use that script to test the build. And then you can, once the build is fine, then you can go and test it. Because sometimes the build is not as it is. It might be fault. The environment might be like different environment. They're mistaken, right? So you call like BVT, build verification test. B as in boy, V as in Victor, T as a team, BVT testing. So not all the company does that, but most of the company also does the BVT testing before you go and test your or actual functionalities. So in that way, like you know that the build is fine, but if you don't test VBT build and you go and testing and you're finding a discrepancy, right? Man, like different results. You might say, oh, the test case is wrong, or the development team made the mistake, but you're not looking at whether the build is wrong or right. So that is also important. You test your new release build before you test your application functionalities. Clear? Everyone, any question?
It's okay.
Polly?
It's okay. Just need to.
So there's
read
automation
it.
test strategies, user stories, and then you create the automation scenarios, and then you create the test scripts and automation framework, and then you kept all these things to the code repository, right? And testing framework have several frameworks you can use, like modular framework, data-driven framework, keyword-driven framework, and hybrid framework. So like
So
four. Yeah.
code repository means we are gonna store the script over there, or
Yes. Yes.
Mm, okay.
So in automation framework, you have a code repository where all the source code will be there.
Okay.
You have a test result folder where all the test results will be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will be all the test cases where all the test cases will be there, right?
Okay.
So those are like framework. You're keeping everything in a organized way so you can understand where if anything is there, you need it, you can easily pull it.
Yeah, and
And your
we
team member,
Yeah.
and your team member also know where all the things. So if you
Yeah.
tell someone you can run this one, you can go to the place because it's already in the framework in a organized way.
Got it.
Like a backlog.
No, the backlog is different thing. Backlog is like, what is a backlog? Polly?
Uh,
Asif, any idea?
Yeah, backlog is where we in the beginning when we decided what are the test cases we are gonna test. That's the backlog, right?
Like a
is there any
storage.
incomplete work
Yes, storage.
and the time
incomplete
running
storage.
out, then we keep it in the backlog and then we bring it
So
for
backlog is
fix.
nothing but is the initial phase where you keep all the scenarios, test cases,
Yeah.
which you haven't started yet.
Yes.
When you
Unfinished,
start your
yeah,
sprint, you
incomplete
can
work.
pull the stories from there to the current sprint and you can start working that. And other things, other scenarios will be still in the backlog, so that you can use that in the next sprint.
Yeah.
So any incomplete work that
Mhm.
kept for future releases is all the backlog. Clear?
Yes.
So this is the automation test framework. Like here you have a delivery script. You have like script 1, 2, maybe a number of scripts. You have function library where all the functions of these scripts are kept. Here you have a databases where all the databases are kept, and function library can use these databases, and then the script can use the function libraries, and these scripts can be derived through the script initialization. So you can click your database script, which will run through the script and use all the functionalities and databases for your script. So some of the advantage of the automation testing framework is reusability of the code. Maintenance cost is low, and you can use the continuous testing of the code, minimal manual interference, and improve efficiency, maximum test coverage, and consistent strategy through test suites. Those are some of the advantages using the automation testing framework. And why do we need the automation testing framework? There are like several benefits when you're using the framework for your test planning and execution, right? It offers the structured development techniques. It provides accurate root cause analysis. It reduces time to write and run the script. And it decreases the dependency on team automatically deciding which tests to be run on test scenario, based on test scenario. So you have a like test scenario, right? And under that, you have a test cases. So you can choose any test scenario. Under that, all the test cases will be start executing, right? You don't have to go and execute separately in each test cases. It supports also parallel testing on different browser, device and platform combination, minimize the challenge with report generation and substantial runtime allow. These are some of the advantages you're getting when you implement the testing framework. And you'll be choosing the framework based on your project or application. What kind of testing framework you'll be using, whether hybrid or modular or data-driven or keyword-driven. Clear? So basically, there are 6 types of automation framework: modular, library, hybrid, keyword, linear, and data-driven. But more 4 of them are mostly used. Out of that, mostly like data-driven and hybrid are used mostly. But this data-driven is the most popular one because in that way you can keep the data in the Excel sheet or the CSV file, and you could drive those data to the automation script and run the script. Even keyword also can be used, but this keyword driven will be used when you're using like a record and playback, like ID, integrated development environment. That time you can use the keyword driven because that identifies the keyword of the application and run your recorded script. But data driven is more like when you're using the destructive programming. So we'll go over each of these framework, try to understand what are the frameworks and how it can be used in different way for the script development. Anyone, any question? So say that I'll stop here for today. And next class we'll go over it, all the modules. The linear
so-
data driven, keyword, hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
ওই কোশ্চেন গুলো কি আজকে পাঠাবেন বা ওই যে হোমওয়ার্ক গুলা?
Yes, those questions I'll send you, guys.
And tomorrow's class is at 6:45.
What is it, 6:45?
No, I don't need late, like, I think we are supposed to start at your time 7 and then take the
7.
multi.
7,
Right?
7, yeah, 7.
Okay.
7 or
7.
6:45 we said, that's all right.
Yes.
7 is better because I finish 6:30. Then I
Oh,
come
Oh,
like
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
you need time
okay.
to get home. Yeah.
Sometime I
Okay.
finish little early, sometime take little late.